This show is a part of the podcast network of the Walled Garden Philosophical Society, an international community of philosophers and seekers dedicated to the pursuit of truth, wisdom, virtue, and the divine, wherever they may be found. To find out more, go to thewalledgarden.com. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Soul Searching with Seneca. Now, today I'm just going to be focusing on one quote that Seneca gives at the end of his 13th letter, and the quote comes from Epicurus. And when I read this quote, I thought, man, this really resonates with me, and I immediately understood what he was trying to say, because it's something that I'm sure a lot of people deal with. But I'm going to read this out to you, and then we'll kind of explore it a little bit. And I'm sure this will be a shorter episode, but hopefully the message resounds. So he quotes Epicurus, saying, quote, "The fool, with all his other faults, has this also, that he is always getting ready to live." End quote. So I want you to think about that. What would Epicurus mean by saying that, the fool is always getting ready to live? What does it mean that you would always be getting ready to live and never living, right? One of the reasons why this really stood out to me and really resonated with me personally is because I know that I've spent a lot of my life doing that exact thing. And I think that there are a few ways that this kind of idea manifests itself in our lives. One of the ways that it comes along is when we lose sight of what it actually means to be living our lives, right? When we stop paying attention to what's happening around us and to the life that we are actually living, and we can kind of fall into that bottomless pit of distractions. And the crazy thing is that a lot of these distractions can seem to us that they are absolutely helping us to live an amazing life, whereas, oftentimes they can merely just be taking our attention away from what's actually happening around us. One of the classic examples of this is, of course, our own philosophical education. The Stoics did talk about this idea that, even moderation in education is necessary, meaning that, listen, you can spend your entire life educating yourself and becoming wiser and, reading many books and listening to many podcasts in our modern age, but was that really living your life, right? The philosophy has to have a practical element to it, meaning it has to be implemented into your life, and it should help you as you experience everything that your life is giving you. And it should not be a mere distraction for you to bury your head in these books so that you don't have to deal with the realities of life and the realities of your own everyday experience. This too, education can become a vice if it takes over and if it is constantly encouraging you to prepare to live rather than to actually live your life. And I guess that this idea is made all the more true in this age that we live in, where really attention is the most valuable currency. And so, you might spend, a couple of hours of your day or, a few more hours of your week, on YouTube listening to lectures and all sorts of things, as I often find myself doing. But really, when you look back on the time that you spent, was it education? Were you really learning? Were you really going deep into your study so that you can get something from it and use it in your life? Or was it merely entertainment and a distraction for you? Seneca has a wonderful rant where he basically scolds all of these students who come to the lectures merely as a form of entertainment, not to take anything away from it. This is something that we need to think about is all this education that you think you're engaging in merely a distraction from you living your life how you could be living it? And are you hiding from the realities of your life by engaging in this philosophical study? And I think that the way you kind of counteract that potentiality is by really going deep into your study. When you're going to study, go deep. Spend the time that you need to spend, but spend it wisely and with an intention to actually get something out of that study that you want to take into your life to live your life, right? But always watch yourself that you're not using this education as merely a form of entertainment to distract you from the life that you're living, right? Because that is absolutely something that happens. I've noticed it sometimes in my life, and I've definitely noticed it in other people's lives as well. You know, philosophy and learning and education is supposed to teach you how to live a better life, not how to distract you from the life that you're currently living. And another idea that I think helps us to explore this passage from Epicurus is really just this thought that, we can often become somewhat confused about what it actually means to be living, right? Because we set all of these goals and we, set up these plans for our life. Well, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to achieve. And then once I've done all this and once I've achieved all this, then I will have the chance to live my life how I want to live it. Then I will be able to relax and do what I want to do. And that will be true living. And we need to stop and remember that living is not something that we do on the distant horizon of our lives, right? It's not a destination that we arrive at. Living is something that you are constantly engaged in, whether you pay attention to it or not. You are living your life, and if you will stop and, as they say, smell the roses, you might see that, there's a lot of great stuff to see, or that there's a lot of stuff that you need to take care of in your life right now that you're distracting yourself from. But the fact is, you're living your life whether you like it or not. You're in this 100%. So pay attention, look around, recognize that you're doing that, and recognize that living is not something that you should be preparing for. It's something that you should be engaging with right now, which you are, right, if you will be willing to actually see that. And so in this passage from Epicurus, I find an injunction to bring our focus back to the life that we are actually living, and to stop living in the future, to stop living in the past, to stop living as if we are preparing constantly for a life that we want to live, and start dealing with the actual realities of your life right now, the experience that you're having and what's happening all around you. There's so much to see if you're willing to first look. So anyway, I want to leave that with you, and I encourage you to think about this. Are you really living your life, or are you constantly in a state of preparing to live, preparing for that next thing to happen that you want to happen, or preparing to achieve that next goal that is going to allow you to finally have the life that you want? And I would say that as you think about this, you may notice that you've been bogged down in many distractions that ultimately are keeping you from seeing that life is constantly happening all around you, and that you are constantly living, whether you notice it or not. Anyway, I'm going to leave that with you, and I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Talk to you next time.